Demons exist in the legends and folklore of cultures all over the world. I'm your host James, and today I'm taking you, yeah that's right, you, on a worldwide demonic tour to discuss some of the creepiest urban legends and demonic stories the various countries of our fine planet have to offer. So dim the lights as we delve into the top 10 terrifying signs of demons in different cultures. At number 10, let's talk about sleep paralysis for a moment, more specifically the jinn in Turkish folklore. Jinn is a word used in many places in the world, but I'm talking specifically about the ones associated with sleep paralysis here. Nearly every country as well also has their own explanation for sleep paralysis, from an old ghostly hag who sits on victims' chests to demonic spirits. In Turkey, it is demonic entities known as jinns who cause the phenomenon. These entities are said to enter into the victim's room, pouncing on them and putting all their weight on the person, restricting their movement entirely before attempting to strangle them. In order to rid yourself of the jinn, you must pray to Allah. There are also versions of the story that depict the jinn wearing a hat, and if you're able to take the hat from the creature, you now have command over it. I probably wouldn't try this because I don't think we have many known instances of this actually working. Sleep paralysis, it's a universal thing and very unsettling. I've had it many times in my life. I once had a sleep paralysis hallucination where I saw a woman in a red gown walk into my closet and then just like stand there staring at me blankly for a while. Anyway, story for another time. Heading to the USA now, we have a possible real-life demonic possession with the exorcism of Roland Doe, aka the Exorcist case. Many of you have probably heard of this one before. It's one of the most famous cases of demonic possession in modern history. The events began in 1949 when a 14-year-old boy named Roland Doe, not his real name, that was kept secret, but he was from Maryland and he started to exhibit signs of possession after his aunt passed away. His family reported strange occurrences like objects moving on their own, scratches appearing on Roland's body. The family turned to the Catholic Church for help. A series of exorcisms were performed over several weeks. During the exorcisms, Roland exhibited violent behavior and spoke in languages he had never learned before. He also reportedly levitated and demonstrated an aversion to religious objects such as crucifixes and holy water, all your classics. The exorcisms were so intense that the priests had to restrain Roland during the sessions, but he seemed to exhibit high levels of strength, even breaking free at one point, breaking one of their noses. This story was a major inspiration, of course, for the Exorcist novel, as well as the legendary film that came after it. Some people believe, of course, that the events were the result of mental illness or other psychological factors, which is most likely the case, but others maintain that this was a genuine case of possession. There certainly was some interesting, creepy stuff going on here. Taking a little trip over to Japan now, we have Akamanto, aka Red Cape. This demonic spirit takes on the form of a man wearing a mask and is said to reside mostly in women's bathrooms, so already a bit of a creep, but gets worse. He typically haunts the last stall in the line of bathroom cubicles. Once you take a seat, he asks you a question. Would you like red or blue paper? Now, you may want to take notes here because what you answer will determine your fate. So get out a pen and a paper. Pen and a paper. You just write it on your... Nobody has a pen or paper anymore. If you answer red paper, you meet a pretty grisly end. There's a variety of different versions of the tale, but we'll just say red, highly associated with blood. It won't be pretty. So write down red and then put a big X through it. Don't answer red. And don't answer blue either, because then the demon will suffocate you. So we seem to have run out of options here. But you could try to trick him and answer with a completely different color altogether, right? Wrong. You guessed wrong. He'll just suck you into the toilet and straight down to hell. Apparently all toilets lead to hell. So don't try anything funny. Here's all you really need to write down in your notes. Don't go to public bathrooms in Japan. I guess. At number 7, we have yet another demonic entity stalking women's washrooms. It's Pinky Pinky from South Africa. I'm glad I'm not a woman, I guess. Ladies, gotta be careful on vacation. You never know what kinds of demons lurk in public bathrooms around the world, it seems. We've all heard the story of Bloody Mary. You say her name 3 times in the bathroom mirror with all the lights off. She makes a visit in the reflection of your mirror, and then the rest is history. In South Africa, Pinky Pinky is a monstrous entity said to stalk women's washrooms. And he's definitely worse than Bloody Mary. Despite this creature's name, it does not like the color pink, and those unfortunate girls who happen to come across the creature while wearing the color are slain in the most brutal of ways. The entity is described as having one hand in the form of a paw and sports a razor-sharp claw on the other. So, not a nice guy. Let's take a look at another demonic entity hailing from Africa, this time in the Tanzanian island of Pemba. We've taken a look at a couple of demonic entities that target women, so let's look at one that makes its living attacking men. Encounters with the demon have been reported periodically as far back as 1965, but in 1995, reports really took off and was regarded as a case of mass hysteria. So what is Papobawa? Well, describing its appearance is difficult. It's said to take on many forms. It can look like a bat, it can look like a kind of human, but it's typically depicted as a winged creature with one eye in the center of its head. The creature is typically reported assaulting men, but it is also said to possess its victims on occasion. It seeks to spread awareness of its presence, telling its victims to tell others of its attack, threatening to return if they don't. In 2007, another string of sightings and attacks were said to have been committed by the creature, causing a number of men to just stay awake or even sleep in groups as the creature was reported to attack at night. Heading back to Japan now, let's talk about the strange creeper. I guess it is a bit of a creeper. Let's talk about the strange creature that is the kappa. In Japanese folklore, kappa are a type of kame, spirits similar to yokai. These reptilian creatures almost have the appearance of monkeys, except with scaly skin. Sometimes they're depicted having turtle shells on their backs too. They're like reptilian monkeys. One thing that is a constant in every depiction of these strange entities, though, are the indents in their heads that hold water. They live around rivers and ponds, of course, and you could probably imagine these water demons are sometimes mischievous, but as some legends state, they can also be incredibly dangerous, attacking unwitting people and dragging them into the water, drowning them, or even eating human flesh. One particularly disturbing thing about these creatures, though, is their fascination with the Shiriki-doma, person's soul, which also happens to be located in the rectum, rear end. Right up there. Speaking of rear ends, by the way, some tales depict the kappa sporting 3 of them, so I don't know what else to say about that. Next on the list is the Pichacha. In Hindu and Buddhist mythology, the Pichacha is a type of supernatural being that is often associated with darkness, death, and the underworld. Not great things to be associated with. They're the manifestation of evil itself. They prey on the living and are said to be particularly active at night, which are, I think, most demons. Are there any like daytime demons? Most of them are kind of doing their thing at nighttime. In both Hindu and Buddhist traditions, the Pichacha is often depicted as a frightening, powerful creature. They are said to possess supernatural abilities, most primarily shape-shifting and invisibility, and are able to, of course, possess people's bodies. Number 3 is a famous one, the Wendigo. The Wendigo is a creature that has long been part of the mythology and folklore of the indigenous people of North America. The legend of the Wendigo varies somewhat tribe to tribe, but the basic story remains the same here. It is said that the Wendigo is a malevolent spirit or creature that preys on humans in the cold and snowy wilderness. One of the most common versions of the story tells of a human being who becomes possessed by the Wendigo spirit after resorting to in order to survive during a harsh winter. The spirit then transforms the person into a monstrous creature with an insatiable hunger for human flesh. It's said to be gaunt and emaciated with elongated limbs and kind of this ghoulish appearance. It's often depicted as having glowing eyes, sharp teeth, and sometimes even has antlers. Now we're off to Ireland to discuss the Dullahan. The Dullahan, a terrifying figure from Irish folklore. If you've ever heard the tale of Sleepy Hollow, you can kind of picture what this dark spirit looks like. The Dullahan is a headless rider who roams the countryside at night, carrying his own head under his arm. He's said to be an omen of death, and those who see him are doomed to die soon after. It's depicted as tall and imposing, dressed in black with a cape. He also carries a whip made from a human spine. Why couldn't Tim Burton have made a Dullahan movie instead of Sleepy Hollow? Because that is something I want to see. It's said to appear when someone is about to die. He rides to the front door of the doomed person's house and calls out their name. If the person comes to the door, they are said to die instantly. The Dullahan's appearance is often accompanied by wild storms, lightning flashing, thunder crashing. Despite its terrifying reputation, Dullahan, not invincible. Legend says that the gold can drive the Dullahan away, so I'm basically screwed. And we're ending our demonic tour in Indonesia with the Leyak. These demonic creatures also happen to be the most terrifying on the list, in my humble opinion. I've always found the imagery of a floating head to be really creepy. There's an old episode of Goosebumps where there were all these evil, old episode of Goosebumps. They're all old, James. The 90s ended long ago. There's an episode of Goosebumps though where there's these floating masks chasing the main character. They always freaked me out as a kid. Anyway, I don't like floating heads. And if you don't, then you won't like the Leyak. The Leyak are said to be witches who have acquired magical powers by practicing black magic and are often depicted as women with long hair, fangs, sharp claws, and of course their heads can separate from their bodies with the various organs hanging out still below, which just adds another layer of eeriness to the whole thing. The Leyak is said to haunt graveyards and other dark places at night, preying on humans and animals. It is believed that the Leyak feed on human flesh with a particular love for pregnant women and their unborn children. Doesn't really get much more evil than that, does it? So, perfect note to end on, I think. That said, I've been your host, James. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that. And I will catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video.